Hey everyone, welcome to Real Life Real Crime Daily for Monday, January 16th. I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agavino. We've got a treat for you on Mondays moving forward, where we are going to feature crimes of the century. And according to Woody Overton, he has over the years received many notes from listeners asking for him to specifically dig into this case and give you his opinion, and we're going to do that today. So we are going to focus on a case that grabbed the country. It grabbed the country for a bunch of reasons. It happened on Christmas Day, or possibly just in the overnight hours between Christmas Day and the 26th. It happened to a beautiful young child. It happened in a place that's idyllic, Boulder, Colorado, with the Rocky Mountains in the background, and seemingly a place where nothing ever goes wrong. And you've figured it out by now. We're going to talk today about the murder of JonBenet Ramsey back in 1996 at just the age of 6. So a little bit of background real quickly. Ramsey was an American child beauty queen. She was killed at the age of 6 in her family's home in Boulder, Colorado. A long handwritten ransom note was found in the home. Her father, John, found her body in the basement of the house about 7 hours after she had been reported missing. She had sustained a broken skull from a blow to the head and been strangled. The autopsy report stated that JonBenet's official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. Her death was ruled a homicide. As I said, the case generated worldwide public media interest, in part because of her mother, Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen, had entered JonBenet into a series of child beauty pageants. The crime is still considered a cold case today, and the investigation is open with the Boulder Police Department.
Yeah, so in 1991, John and Patsy, they moved to Boulder, Colorado, where John, who was a software executive, had just been promoted to the company's headquarters. And Patsy Ramsey soon began entering young JonBenet Ramsey in various child beauty pageants in and around Boulder, Colorado. Now, JonBenet was beautiful, y'all. She was 6 years old. She was on a stage in front of a lot of people, which is a big part of the reason this case grabbed the nation's attention the way it did. JonBenet won the titles of American Royal Miss, Little Miss Charlevoix, Little Miss Colorado, Colorado State All-Star Kids, CoverGirl, the National Tiny Miss Beauty. And Patsy was often described as a pageant mother by the media after the murder. Now, in the summer of 1997, approximately 6 months after her death, the Ramseys moved to a new home in Atlanta. And according to statements that Patsy gave authorities on December 26, 1996, she realized that her daughter was missing after she found a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note on the kitchen staircase. The note demanded $118,000, and the amount alone seemed strange to everyone.
Now, I'm going to read you the ransom note because it's such a key piece of this story and has been talked about for years, so I'm going to read it verbatim. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want to see her in 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery, and hence the earlier delivery pickup of your daughter. Any deviation from my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you to not provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money in any way is marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. And the ransom note is signed, well, the last line says victory, and then it's signed SBTC, all in capitals, which will come up throughout the investigation, throughout the story. So John pointed out to police immediately that the amount was nearly, the $118,000 amount, was nearly identical to the Christmas bonus he had earned for the prior year, which suggested that someone had access to that information, which obviously would be confidential information with his company. The ransom note was unusually long. The FBI felt that it was very unusual for such a note to be written at the crime scene. In other words, not prepared ahead of time, but written on scene and left unseen. The police believed that the note was staged because it did not have any fingerprints except for Patsy's and the authorities who had handled it. The note was written with a pen and notepad from the Ramsey home. According to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation report, there are indications that the author of the ransom note is Patsy Ramsey. However, the evidence fell short of a definitive conclusion to that. Michael Bodden, a board-certified forensic pathologist who has consulted with both sides of the case, said he had never seen a note like it in his 60 years of experience, and he did not think it was written by an outside stranger. A federal court later ruled it highly unlikely that Patsy wrote the note, citing 6 certified handwriting experts on that opinion.
Now, Patsy telephoned the police at 5:52 a.m. She also called some family members. She called some friends, and 2 police officers responded to the 911 call and arrived at the Ramsey home within 3 minutes. They conducted a search of the house and did not find any sign of forced entry. Officer Rick French went to the basement, came to a door that was secured by a wooden latch. He paused for a moment in front of that door, but walked away without opening it. French later explained that he was looking for an exit route used by the kidnapper, which the closed inside peg ruled out. JonBenet's body was later found behind that door. That's a big part. Now, with JonBenet still missing, John made arrangements to pay the ransom. A forensic team was dispatched to the house, and the team initially believed that the child had been kidnapped, and JonBenet's bedroom was the only room in the house that was cordoned off to prevent contamination of evidence. No precautions were taken to prevent contamination of evidence in the rest of the house now. Meanwhile, friends, victims advocate, and Ramsey's family minister arrived at the home to show support. Visitors picked up and cleaned all surfaces in the kitchen, possibly destroying evidence. Boulder detective Linda Arndt arrived at 8 a.m. in anticipation of receiving further instructions from kidnappers, but there was never an attempt by anyone to claim the money. Now, at 1 p.m., Detective Arndt asked John Ramsey and a family friend to search the house to see if anything seemed amiss. They started their search in the basement. John opened the latch door, which Officer French had overlooked, and found his daughter's body in one of the rooms. Another key point, I think. JonBenet's mouth was covered with duct tape, and a nylon cord was found around her wrist and neck. Her torso was covered by a white blanket. John picked up his daughter's body and took it upstairs. When JonBenet was moved, the crime scene was further contaminated, and critical forensic evidence was disturbed. for the returning forensic team. Now, each of the Ramseys provided handwriting, blood, and hair samples to the police. John and Patsy participated in a preliminary interview for more than 2 hours, and JonBenet's brother Burke was also interviewed within the first couple of weeks following JonBenet's death. In 1998, the police and district attorney formally eliminated Burke, who was 9 years old at the time of the murder, as a suspect.
Okay. Before I started on the next part, the autopsy, all I want to say is bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. I'm sitting here for the last 11 minutes in my brain screaming bullshit, and at some point all I started hearing is the Charlie Brown's teacher going, wah, 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 wah. So I want to go back before I do the autopsy. And first of all, certainly I don't have any direct knowledge that I wasn't there, and so we'll lay that disclaimer out. But I'm going to tell you what I think anyway in a minute. But I went to homicide school not long after this happened. One of the first homicide schools I went to, and we went over everything from pronouns and the alleged ransom note and everything else and whatever. So I'll tell you about the autopsy, and I guess we'll get into the bullshit. So the autopsy revealed that JonBenet had been killed by strangulation and a skull fracture. The official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. There was no evidence of conventional rape, although sexual assault could not be ruled out. Although no semen was found, there was evidence that there had been a vaginal injury. At the time of the autopsy, the pathologist recorded that it appeared her vaginal area had been wiped with a cloth. Her death was ruled as a homicide. A garrote, y'all, which is just a choking mechanism, a handheld ligature of chain or rope or wire that was made from a length of nylon cord, and the broken handle of a paintbrush was tied around JonBenet's neck and had apparently been used to strangle her. Part of the bristle end of the paintbrush was found in a tub containing Patsy's art supplies, but the bottom third of it was never found, despite extensive searching of the house by the police in subsequent days. The autopsy revealed a vegetable or fruit material which may represent pineapple, which JonBenet had eaten a few hours before her death. Photographs of the home taken on the day when JonBenet's body was found show a bowl of pineapple on the kitchen table with a spoon in it. However, neither John nor Patsy said they remembered putting the bowl on the table or feeding the pineapple to JonBenet. Police reported that they found JonBenet's 9-year-old brother, Bert Ramsey's fingerprints on the bowls. All right.
Let's talk about the investigation and how it goes, right? Experts, the media, and the Ramseys identify a number of potential suspects. So Boulder police start focusing on those as well as on John and Patsy themselves. And by October of 97, so 10 months later, they had over 1,600 people in the index of persons of interest for the case. I mean, so that's a wide net that was cast, but they were looking inside as well as outside. Errors were made in the initial investigation, including the contamination of a bunch of evidence. Jim talked about the friends that came over and cleaned the kitchen, for instance, et cetera. We know that her father picked her body up and carried it upstairs when he found it. So all kinds of contamination.
I'm going to go back, and I want to start with the ransom note. Do y'all mind?
Yeah, no,
all right,
we can do that.
Okay. Total bullshit. If you are going to go in and brutally murder this young girl, you're not going to let's say the ransom note assumes that she's alive. You're not going to break into a home and kidnap at this time, if the ransom note was correct, kidnap this young child and take the time to find a pen and paper inside the residence and write out this very eloquently written letter. Okay, and let's talk about that. If you study the letter itself, the way the pronouns are used through it, I won't get into it all today. There's strong indicators on there that letter was written by the mother or the combination of the mother and father. Now, the ransom amount, them saying, oh, I just got my bonus check for the year, and it's almost that amount, exact amount. So it must have been somebody, that had inside knowledge from work. Well, that's a red herring. They're trying to throw up something else for the police to chase on. But who in the world, in the history of the world, has ever kidnapped someone and taken the time on a Christmas Eve to write this long, elegant letter and kept saying his name over again? John, you're not the smartest one. You're not the biggest dog, da-da-da-da. And if you even talk to a dog, we'll kill her. Following up on that, evidently they disregarded the instructions in the letter because they automatically started getting the money together, and the FBI and everybody else was involved. You would not, if it was my child and I knew she wasn't dead in the basement, I wouldn't involve the cops. All right, and if you believe that they're so smart that they can break into your house and use your pen and your paper to write this big long demand letter and say all this bad shit and that they're going to do, et cetera, you don't call the cops. But go ahead.
Yeah, they also look at these handwriting experts and things like that, look at explanation points and periods and commas and things like that all the time, because when people write, and especially the explanation point, let's focus on that. Not a lot of people use explanation points, and when they do, they don't use them in massive form. This one had a few more explanation points than you would normally use, and as luck would have it, they had some handwriting samples from JonBenet Ramsey's mother that she was a fan of the explanation point, to say the least. So that was one issue that these handwriting experts noticed right off the bat.
Let's talk about handwriting experts real quick. Am I cutting you off in mid-sentence?
Nope.
All right. The handwriting analysis is no more acceptable and proven scientifically than polygraphs.
Yeah.
Okay? It's you could give it to 6 different people and you might get 6 different opinions. All right. It's bullshit. And you, no matter what the handwriting, and I agree with you that she wrote it, and of course I wasn't there. We weren't there, y'all. But my personal opinion is she wrote it. There's way too many personal uses of the first name John and everything else that she does, the exclamation marks, etc., to the detailing about who says make sure you bring a proper size attaché case to the bank.
I think that was intentional.
And then you bring, absolutely. Then you bring it home and put it in a brown paper bag.
Yeah,
it's fucking too deep.
I agree.
Presumably while you're writing this letter, you must have this girl with the duct tape over her mouth, and you got her kidnapped, right? But you're taking this time to write this big long ass flowing letter. You would have brought the letter with you. If you already knew the amount and everything, you're bringing it with you. You're going there to commit this crime of abduction, which never happened. And you're gonna borrow pen and paper from the house and write all this shit and go into all of this detail. Way too much.
I agree.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
And you brought up verbiage, and let's talk about that for just a second, because there was also in that ransom letter an interesting term where the ransom letter starts with "listen carefully." Now, normally that could be something somebody just says, but here's the issue. Patsy Ramsey was a fan of a particular author, and he had wrote a book, and in that book, this fictional book that he wrote, it was about a ransom, and the ransom letter also started with "listen carefully."
So you guys have both come at the ransom letter from the standpoint of a kidnapper would never write a letter from like this.
No, they would write letters like that, but they won't take the time to find a pen in the home and paper and then write this long letter while they're in the middle of abducting JonBenet Ramsey.
No
it's
way.
Bullshit. That's all it is.
I agree that perspective makes complete sense. But I also go to the other side and think, why would parents write a letter that contains so much personal sort of reference, so much personal information that to me would either lead to the police to suspect somebody very close to the family or very involved with the family with some kind of vendetta against the family, or the family themselves, because no run-of-the-mill kidnapper is going to have that much information and seemingly that much insight into John's personality.
Let me take you back to Christmas Eve, okay? You're her parents. She dies. And again, we have no personal knowledge. We weren't there, but she dies or is murdered by the brother or whatever, as an accident, whatever you believe. The deal is I'm surprised they wrote this good of a letter, right? Your kid is dead. You already know this, all right? If you go with my theory, your kid is dead, and so you get some paper and a pen from the home. The letter they wrote, try to throw the cops off in another way. You're not Jesus. You're not perfect, right? So when you're writing it out, you're in the oh shit mode and everything else, and you're going through, and it is what it is. It's not going to be perfect. And certainly in the school I sat in 30-something years ago, however long ago it was, I think 30 years ago, with the FBI highlighted on this fact, right? Your kid is dead and you know it, then this is like the holy grail of letters. But they fucked up because they put in too much information and all that.
Woody, you've seen your share of ransom notes over the years.
I've studied ransom notes in different classes, and I've actually what I said about handwriting analysis being like polygraphs, the subjective and all that. I've had handwriting analysis classes, but the ransom notes, the ones that I've seen, have all been through classes taught by professionals who handled the case.
So there's two ways to look at this ransom note. Either from the perspective that you believe it's written by a legitimate kidnapper, or from the perspective that it's written by the parents, the family, to try and cover up an accidental death in the house. Right.
Well,
so
that's the only two ways you can look at it.
Okay.
But Woody Overton's view is, and certainly, again, I wasn't there, I have no direct knowledge, it's bullshit, okay? You don't break. If you're going to go in and kidnap, you have such personal knowledge of John and all this, and if you're going to go in and do that, you bring your own ransom note. You don't borrow the pen and paper from the house, and take the time to write it while you're committing this crime. This is Christmas time, and, you're off, the parents are off. Who's to say, while you're taking the time, kidnapping the girl, and first of all, I don't care, unless you use chloroform or something on her, but you still had to break into the residence, and you're liable to make some kind of sound. The parents might be light sleepers. If whatever you knew about John, you probably didn't know that. And anybody could have woke up, the son could have woke up and heard something, but you're going to take the time to write this big, long, eloquent ransom note. It's bullshit. It's just bullshit. Like I said earlier, I don't know if it made it in or not, but writing like, make sure you bring a proper size attaché case to the bank with you. Who the fuck?
Briefcase.
Go to the bank and get your $118,000, right? And the fact that, again, that to me is the biggest red flag. Them saying that it must have been somebody who's very familiar with the fact that I just got a bonus. That means it gives you more suspects on the 1,600 people they were looking at. The ransom note is bullshit, period. Any way you read it, you don't break into a house. What if they went in the house and to kidnap JonBenet Ramsey, and the Ramseys didn't have any paper in the house or pen? What the fuck? Who in the world in the right mind would not take the time to write that before, if it's legit, write it before they go in? You're going to take the time, and possibly she might have fought or whatever it may be. They might have heard you climbing in the window, whatever it may be. And then you're going to take the time. How long do you think it took to write that note? It took a few minutes.
I rarely speak in absolutes, but I'll say this. There's 0% chance of that happening, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
0.
Absolutely. You're not going to go in and commit this crime, this abduction, and not bring your own ransom note. This note is an oh shit. We're the perfect people, but we're so intelligent, but our baby girl is dead.
All right, well, let's go to the position that it was written by the Ramseys next. But just to close out on the potential of a kidnapper, I would think if I was a kidnapper who was close enough to a family to know all of these things, I would not want to make that obvious in a ransom note. I would want to be to appear to be as distant as possible.
If it goes with your thought on that, I hope that they were so close to the family they hung out inside their house every day and knew where their pen and paper were so they could write this fucking note.
Yeah, and that's kind of my question is, how do they know the note was written in the house? Like,
Because
what makes you think
it
that?
came from paper. They were able to prove the paper that it came from, and the Ramseys evidently identified the pen as being their own.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this, and now the ransom note is long and distinguished, but this, y'all, you don't take the time to do it when you're committing the crime. This is a cover-up, and no crime is perfect. It is a cover-up, a flag, and look, they didn't. If it was legit and they're scared, they didn't pay the ransom note. If you talk to a dog, we'll kill her. Guess what? They called in everybody, right, including 911. Any asshole with a scanner can hear that the 911 calls come from the house. It's bullshit.
Exactly. If you're the parents of a daughter
truly concerned,
you love deeply, you receive a note like this, the note tells you that all it's going to take is $118,000 to get your daughter back.
Yeah.
You're not calling the police. You're not involving anyone else. You're getting the $118,000 together, and you're getting your daughter back.
Absolutely. And what about them saying, and when we meet, if you can get the money earlier, maybe we can meet earlier, and we're going to scan you for electronic devices. That's saying that we're going to be face to face. No fucking body's going to do a ransom note and a ransom drop face to face, so you can identify them. It's all bullshit.
Okay, so there's 3 votes against the possibility that this is a ransom note from a legitimate kidnapper. Now, okay, let's take it the other way. You are the parent, something horrible has happened in the house, whatever it was, and it's resulted in the death of your young daughter, and now you're going to cover it up, and you're coming up with a way of covering it up. How the heck do you arrive at a ransom note that looks like this?
Well, I mean, maybe she's an avid reader, like Jim said, and she had read a book before. However that case turned out, you have to come up with something other than my daughter is dead. You know why? Because they knew they were going to do the autopsy. They knew somebody had been raping her or abusing her, like the autopsy report shows. And they even showed her vagina had been wiped, right? Why do you do that? To get rid of any trace of semen. But there's tearing. She's 6 years old. Her vagina shouldn't have any signs of anything on it. And the autopsy proved that it did, consistent with sexual abuse or previous sexual abuse.
Right.
And I mean, so what are you going to do? You're not going to just say, oh, well, my daughter, let's assume, for the sake of thinking, that the son did it, and then he's like, oh shit, and the parents find out. These people have got it going on, right? They're very successful. Obviously, image is huge for Patsy, and she, having been a former beauty person herself, and then enter her daughter in all these pageants that she's won. And I think that's the picture that pops in everybody's mind's eye when they hear JonBenet Ramsey is the news clips of her showing her on the stage for a little tiara on and spinning her around in a little dress at a beauty contest. These people were not going to have either their son or themselves accused of sexual abuse, much less murder. First of all, let's go back to they respond. One guy goes downstairs, search house, and he comes to a door with a bolt on it. Okay, it's bolted from the inside. Open the fucking door. Right? If you're going to search a house, you're going to clear a house. You don't know. There might be a nuclear bomb in that room, but you got to clear it for your safety and the safety of everybody else. And you're looking for any potential signs of crime. That might have been where they made entry. Who knows? We don't know because he fucked it up and didn't open the door. And the whole house should have been a crime scene. Nobody should have come over. Certainly not all the friends and the preacher and everybody else, and clean surfaces. Yeah, that should. Boulder PD should be ashamed of themselves for what they did on this day, or didn't do. But why wouldn't you do it? I mean, if it was my kid, my house, and I knew my daughter had been kidnapped, you don't know how it happened. The whole place is a crime scene. The yard is a crime scene. I'd have had the fucking block roped off. And, nowadays, certainly, but they have the cameras. Everybody has a camera. Back then they didn't, but you might have found tire tracks. You might have found, something. You don't know until you look. And you can't look. Even if they found something now, after all these people in, a defense attorney would have had a field day with it.
Well, and it's Christmas time in Boulder. There's probably snow on the ground. So vehicle tracks, I mean, they're...
Foot tracks.
Right. We'll never know because they effed it up.
Okay, well, somehow the initial investigation moves away from suspicion of the family.
Whatever. No, and it comes back to them later on with the grand jury and all that.
Yes, but we go 2 years, 1,600 people of interest when, as we just sit here around the table looking at a ransom note and considering the circumstances and not even taking into account other evidence like the different ways of entering the area where she was found, like breaking through windows and things like that. No cobwebs were disturbed. There was no. Right. It appeared as if the kidnapper would have to have rang the front doorbell and come in that way. Right. Nothing was disturbed and
then asked them where the pen and paper were.
Right.
So was it just cops looking at this all-American family, this beautiful girl, everything seeming so wonderful that this could never...
The ransom note, it was the big part. You think it's imperfect, and I agree it's imperfect if the family wrote it, which they have no knowledge, but I certainly think they did. They are focused on this to the point where he's trying to get the money from the bank and doing all this stuff, which the ransom note told him not to do. If you believed it, you would have done that. And the cops screwed it up. The 1,600 people, that's not BPD doing this. This is after the FBI and everybody else involved. Certainly you have to go look for any sex offenders in the area. They'll try to find out anything you can about this BS group. They signed it, whatever. You want to look at everybody, but that doesn't mean you don't have a main focus on somebody, right? You have to exclude other people. All the tips come in. Every time we work a homicide, new story runs, you get 100 phone calls and 99 of them are quack jobs, but you got to run them all down. So that's where the 1,600, don't let that throw you off. It could have been 10,600 they could have looked at. But they had an idea, and as proven, and I think it was 98 or whenever the grand jury came in and said, hey, this is bullshit.
Right. This is when the DA didn't think he could get a conviction, and so they didn't indict. But let's go backwards for a second, just timeline-wise. What we're supposed to understand as outsiders is that the mother finds the ransom note. The ransom note explicitly tells the mother to do anything but call the police.
And she calls the police.
So that's the first thing.
You think
that's the first thing.
That Patsy Ramsey had such faith in the Boulder Police Department that she can call 911 after she's reading this letter? How many times did they say they would kill her daughter? You won't even get her body back for a burial, and you're going to call the police.
And I would say this. Actually, the ransom note was talking to the father, not the mother. If you notice, they reference John the whole time. They don't say anything about Patsy, almost as if it was someone, and I'm like Woody. I wasn't there. I don't know that she did it, but I have my suspicions. But if she wrote that letter, she didn't write it in a first person point of view, which is, in other words, she singled out John because she's thinking naturally that.
And she put
I'm not
down
going
on
to single
him.
out myself.
And she put down on him. Don't think you're the smartest person. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Which there's no way they would
is.
suspect me because I'm married to him and I love him.
And you're so stupid. I have to tell you to bring a large enough attaché case.
Yeah.
And whatever. That's bullshit. The now could it be that? I mean, obviously she knew, and no direct knowledge. My thought process being that she gets alerted at some point that whoever in the house kills JonBenet, and now she's like, now I got to fix y'all shit again.
Right.
Right. So I'm gonna write this ransom note.
So mom goes into, and that would sort of fit the personality of a beauty queen mom. If you're, because those women those women
profiling a little bit there. Some pretty nice beauty queen moms.
I think he's talking about wanting to make.
I'm talking about on those reality shows about the
You
kid
watch those,
pageants.
right?
And
We love
what
our
they do.
beauty queen listeners.
I'm well-rounded on my reality
Now we
TV.
know.
Woody.
Yeah. Now we know Mike watches beauty queen reality shows.
And 6 different brands of the housewives.
Oh God, my wife watches all this.
So, yeah, it again, just looking at it for the first time in years, it seems like heads would have got around a table, looked at the circumstances, and concluded pretty quickly that their focus ought to be internally on the family.
Right, but you also had an acute political emergency. It blew up nationwide, worldwide, and it was a shit show. Really
Primarily because of the exposure of, the beauty pageant exposure that
So
JonBenet
the media impacts the investigation.
absolutely.
Her beautiful face is everywhere.
Absolutely,
The family is grieving. Look at this, perfect piece of Americana we have here.
She lay dead in the
Boulder.
basement
Yeah.
for half a day. I mean, come on, man. And the matter. I was reading the autopsy report. She was choked out by a paintbrush and wire. That's personal. And she was dead the whole time. So there's no need for a ransom note. Why you go in there and kill her? And if you're an outside person, go in there and brutally, I can't think of a more horrible way for a 6-year-old to die than have wire wrapped around her neck and tightened up with a paintbrush, right?
There's no way. There's no way the kidnapper.
Then
was,
you gonna leave a ransom note?
There's no way the kidnapper was still there. The ransom note was upstairs. He was downstairs with her. The police were already on the police were already on the premises. Yeah. They broke the rules, and now he's following through on his threat to kill her if they call the police.
Yeah, absolutely.
And somehow he gets out.
Because they'd have to be the world's dumbest criminal. Oh, I'm a kidnapper and leave a ransom note, but I'm going to hide in your basement and see if you break the rules. By the way, he couldn't have done that because that basement door was locked from the interior side of the house. You can't go inside that basement room and reach out and lock the door with a deadbolt.
Well, he had to get in there somehow if the body was in there.
If he got in, he got in there, but the deadbolt's on the outside. He got in there, he can't shut the door and then lock the deadbolt that's on the outside of the door. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's bullshit. We should title this
bullshit.
Bullshit.
So there was a lot of theories involved with this case that came out. Obviously, when you have something that is just national exposure and really international exposure, people start developing their own theories, whether they have all the information or not.
Idaho murders.
Yeah, exactly like the Idaho murders. And so the family member theory was one of them that was developed, and it's centered around Burke. And Burke was 9 years old. That was JonBenet's brother. And he was interviewed at least 3 times by investigators. The first 2 interviews, they didn't really raise any concerns. As a matter of fact, the psychologist stated that they had a very healthy, caring family. Now, in 1998, Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner said in an interview that Burke Ramsey was not involved. He completely ruled him out. And in 1999, the district attorney's office kind of reiterated that because these theories were becoming kind of a huge thing. People were saying, oh, the brother had to do it, and all of those sorts of things. So they were very adamant about ruling out Burke. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
I personally, and again, I have no direct knowledge, I think that my first, let me back up. Boulder Police Chief, how many 6-year-old deaths has he worked when it's been a prominent family, right? So what most police chiefs are almost political figures. They don't know a fucking thing about investigation. Nobody wants to believe that a 9-year-old can kill a 6-year-old sister. And then you throw in the fact that she's been sexually abused and all that. So you would lean more towards the dad if you're going with the family theory. But I believe that Burke, either accidentally or whatever, I mean, maybe he's been playing with her sexually, as he's developing. Maybe somebody was playing with him before. That's a learned behavior, whatever, however it may be. But I believe he had involvement with it and went in no shit mode, and then the parents went in no shit mode.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/reallife. That's GOBBLE.com/real-life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
And I've always believed that. And I followed this from the beginning and been to classes on and everything else. You'll never make. And there, I can't remember what it was. Like a couple of years ago, he just did as an adult, did an interview about it, saying that the parents should be owed an apology and all that, whatever. I'd like to have a shot at him. 9-year-old, there are different interview protocols and stuff like that, and a parent would have had to been in the room. You're not going to interview a juvenile without at least one guardian present and stuff like that. So, but if this has been going on in their house, certainly they've been groomed to keep it in the family.
Well, and there were some other theories. For example, the mother. There was a theory where JonBenet, who was a bedwetter, the mother would get very frustrated about this. That was kind of well known, and struck her during kind of a fit of rage to do with this bedwetting incident. Thought she killed JonBenet when she struck her, so then strangled her to make it look like it was somebody else because maybe in her mind, just what you said, that's a very personal way of killing someone, and they won't suspect I would strangle my own daughter to death. The suspicion is JonBenet was still alive and the strangulation in fact killed her. or that's one of the theories. So you have two theories there, one with the son and then one with the mother where she struck her for bedwetting.
Yep. Well, you know what? Even if it was the dad, let's say dad is raping JonBenet and the mom comes in and sees it and goes off or whatever, or the dad does it and admits to the mom, and that's why this letter is dogging on him so hard. And let's say Bert didn't have anything to do with it. The deal is the ransom note tells all in my mind. The paper from the house, the pen from the house, the wording, and the fact that they didn't follow the instructions. If they would have had a better chance. I mean, obviously, whoever did it got away with it, right? But they would have had a better chance of this case never been so hard scrutinized had they not put that fucking ransom letter in there.
Yeah, that's the smoking
said,
gun.
My daughter is strangled in the basement. An intruder, whatever. Then they would have focused elsewhere. The ransom note effed everything up and made it so outside the box and makes it so controversial.
Well, and you could maybe see in a complete state of panic where parents are looking at each other, our daughter's dead, there's nothing we can do about that. Our son did it.
Right.
We can't lose two kids.
Right.
So
I see that.
So we have got to do whatever we can do to cover this thing up and protect Burke.
Right. And they're not professional criminals. The letter gets written, and it is what it is. And whether dad did it or mom did it or son did it, somebody in that house did it, period.
Investigators questioned Burke 3 times.
Well, then every investigator is different. You have to know what experience they have and everything else. And let me tell you something. I know on cases that I work where people are psychopathic, narcissistic, and then psychopathic on top of it. And I'm a hell of an investigator, and I know they did it. And I've called them in lies and everything else, and they just can sit there, just look at you, no expression, no remorse. I even say I would do voice from the grave or pray with them, do whatever I have to do, try everything in the world to get them to crack.
A 9-year-old?
To get a little veneer.
A 9-year-old?
Hey, if the 9-year-old's been being raped since or whatever, yeah. I mean, but the parents are in the room. They didn't interview that kid by himself. And if they know, the kid knows, they
and probably an attorney.
But the kid knows this is how we do get down at our house, and my mom and my dad are sitting here with me, and if I say anything other than what they told me, then shit, I might end up like JonBenet.
Now,
they're not going to look. They're not going to beat this 9-year-old for a confession or holler at him or anything like that. They're simply asking simple questions, and a 9-year-old will say whatever they're coached to say.
This is a cold case. Remains open.
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be because it should have been solved.
Should have been worked correctly and solved.
Okay, so that's one theory. Now we have another theory that is obviously intruder-based. So as any good investigation goes, you look at kind of all angles, all possibilities. And one of these angles was the intruder version. And so there were some things that struck me as I dug into this case as odd and a way for an intruder to gain access into the house. One thing that we mentioned earlier was it was Christmas time. It was holiday time. And what do you do during Christmas time? You string lights everywhere, and you have extension cords coming out of windows and things like that. Well, there were 2 windows where they had extension cords running out of the windows, and they were closed and almost shut, but there was a little gap there at the end where the extension cord went through, and the windows were unable to lock. So there were 2 of those. And they also had a door that was left unlocked, strangely enough. Now, the door thing, if you're involved in it and you're a family member, you can always unlock a door to say, oh, they went in the unlocked door. But the window thing does make sense that you would string that extension cord out. So there were some ways for them to gain access, but all of that being said, on these windows, they still had undisturbed cobwebs, things like that you would look for. If you saw a bunch of broken cobwebs, the foliage is disturbed outside of the window. Well, there's where they went in. None of that was obvious. They did find one footprint inside the basement that was unidentified. They can't really track that to any one individual. So that was all the evidence they really had of an intruder coming in, was that one footprint that was unidentified. The other things, although there was some ways to gain entry with the unlocked windows and doors, it didn't appear anyone went in through those areas to gain access.
And had they done what they should have done and roped off the scene, they could say without a doubt that there wouldn't have been, they could look for shoe prints outside and everything else. The shoe print inside, who's to say that it wasn't one of the searchers in the home when they finally, or the initial search, or after the fact when they start working this crime scene.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So let me tell you about this real quick. The letter being signed by this whatever group, I can tell you from many, many years experience, someone who kills a child or pretty much anybody, and it's a group, loose lips sink ships. Somebody's going to talk, and they would have talked. And I know the family put up a reward at one point and all that.
If you were involved in it, you could put up a $6 trillion reward, so and you'll never have to pay it.
Right, exactly. Going back to what you asked me earlier about could it be solved now. I can tell you one thing. If I was in that house and it was my sister or my daughter and I had took part in whether it's the cover-up or the actual killing itself, the John Ramsey's still alive, Patsy's in the grave, Burke's an adult now, you have no incentive to tell on yourself. They don't have shit. It's been an open case for 30 years or however long it's been. And what incentive will you ever have to give them more evidence than they already have? None. And I'm working a cold case right now, and I won't say which one, and I know who did it, and I know who did it. I know which one. Reasonable doubt. I know where the missing person is.
Shh, you're saying too much.
No, I'm always working cold case. I get requests every day. But if I could prove it, their ass would be in jail. But here's the one thing: you better believe that these investigators, not these guys might be dead by now, but whoever's got this case, they have their theory. They have their main theory.
And you think they're still working it?
Oh yeah, but that's always, you never forget about a case that you work like this that's still open. You may look at it every day on your desk or pull it out once a month and look at it or whatever, but they have their main theory. The problem is, as less than 1% of all cold cases ever get solved, and the longer the case is cold, the harder it is to solve it. Cases like this, especially if the family is involved and one of them's dead, the other one's an adult now, and it's been in use, et cetera, you're not going to tell on yourself. You have no cause to. You have to just sit back and wait, because the one thing that will never run out in this case is statute of limitation on murder. There is none.
Right. Well, one thing that I would like to know, if I was an investigator, cold case investigator, I'd want to know, is what is Burke's relationship with his father today? Oh, because if you've been through something like this that did this to a family, mm-hmm. and you're the father who protected the son,
yeah.
Well, and by the way, there are I don't know how close they were before, but John Ramsey was married once before and had kids that were older from that marriage. I don't know what their relationship was specifically with JonBenet and Burke, but I would want to understand the family dynamic today, because if they're all in separate corners of the country, not in communication with each other, and that would be a pretty good indication that.
I mean, and I'm sure they're looking at that. But whatever the relationship was with the step family, I can tell you one thing: they weren't in the house that night.
No, they weren't.
And as far as his relationship with his dad, who knows? And even if you did know, that doesn't give you probable cause in this case. If they're estranged, it doesn't prove anything other than they're estranged.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But it would focus you.
Well, they're focused on something. You got to stay when you get on something like this. You have to stay on it until, and the other 1,600 people, you stay on it until you can disprove it, or you get more information and you keep moving on it. They have a focus on it, and they always will have. And the sad thing is, this case is never going to be solved unless somebody's on their deathbed and is afraid of going to hell and says, "This is what happened."
There you go. You heard it straight from the man.
See, I would be effing with this guy. I would drop like 50 pineapples on his outside his front door, right?
Well, we won't talk about things that swim. Someone who isn't me did, and investigations. But I can tell you this. I mean, we can talk about the autopsy. Most people, I don't know if most people even know that one of the main parts of the autopsy is they cut your stomach open. Mm-hmm. And I can remember the old doc, what's his name, and cut the stomach open in front of him one time, and he's sniffing it, and he's like, "Smell it." I mean, I know, dude, I'm good. And he's like, "No, smell it, and tell me what you think it is." And I sniffed, and it was a little bit sweet, and then it had a sweet smell to it. He said, "It's barbecue sauce," and it was like, damn, it smells like an open thing of Kraft barbecue sauce.
Wow.
But that is a very real part of the autopsy, so don't take that out of context. If you die under suspicious circumstances, they're cutting your stomach open. Yeah. And hopefully you weren't eating a bag of dicks. Boom, Jim.
They found.
We're not taking that out.
They did, and they found the pineapple.
Right. And suspected pineapple. Right.
And they found the brothers' fingerprints on the bowl.
Yeah.
Of the pineapples in the kitchen.
His house, I'm sure he got some out of that bowl before.
But
yeah. I mean, that's what I'm kind
of. That to me is not a huge bit of proof, though, because of as a father of 3 kids, my daughter brings my other daughter bowls all the time, and they've done that since they were kids. My son will bring my daughter cereal bowls. If she ate pineapples and he picked it up off the kitchen counter and handed it to her, to me that doesn't prove anything.
Doctor,
too easy to explain away.
I don't want to say it's Bin Laden, because it's not Bin Laden. It's close to that. This guy, this forensic pathologist, I don't know if y'all remember, he had the show on HBO, something like Voices from the Grave or whatever, but he would go back and do these autopsies that were suspicious on other things, and he'd always come back and prove it one way or another. This guy is the most world-renowned pathologist ever, and he's world famous, and he said in the beginning that it was the mama. Y'all remember that? You know what I'm talking about?
I was unaware. But I believe you.
I mean, he did. They brought him in because so high profile. He's going to come in and give. Where's the first part that you're at?
I don't know. The setup. This what Mike wear? I mean, you got all the other paper. That's all the papers.
No, I have the other ones.
Yeah.
Because this is important. People that know this guy are going to know what that was important to me. Let's see.
I don't remember a pathologist.
Yes, it's in here. I'm telling you, I have a photograph memory. I just can't. I don't want to get the name correct because I used to watch this show, Voices from the Grave or something like that. It was a hell of a good show.
Tales from the Crypt.
Something like that. Where's the beginning of the other article? I won't take it 2 minutes, but I think this is important.
This is the very beginning.
All right, it's going to be on these pages. No. Next page.
Here you go, bro. Wait a minute.
Next. Next.
Autopsy 3, Voices from the Grave.
Voice from the Grave.
But it was like an episode called Autopsy.
I'm telling you, he
Michael
did.
Baydon. Michael Baydon.
Oh, he didn't say she did it.
Baden?
He said, okay.
All right, so
He
Michael
said he
Baydon.
thought
Boom, Jim.
she wrote the note.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, she took. Well, when I say she did, she took part of it.
Boom, Jim.
Boom, Jim. So y'all, Michael Baden, he's like the most famous forensic pathologist in the world. Even had the show on HBO.
Autopsy 3, Tales from the Grave.
But he had a whole series of it. It may not have been on HBO. He had a whole series where he would go back and do these autopsies.
Quincy.
What's that?
I said Quincy.
But listen, this guy
Quincy was good.
is like wrote the Bible on forensic pathology, and he said, and he consulted on both sides of the case for the defense and the prosecution, and he said he had never seen a note, talking about the ransom note, in his 60 years of experience, and he did not think it was written by an outside stranger.
There you go. The proof's in the pudding, as they say down here in the deep south.
I mean, he didn't have a dog in the fight, and if he could have proved it was an outside person or whatever. Over the years, this case has been done on all the television shows and even covered in Rolling Stone magazine, et cetera. And at some point, the family moved to Atlanta before Patsy died, to get away with it, and not to get away with it, to get away from the constant pressure up there, et cetera. But at some point, even after CBS covers it, the family, the remaining members, Burke Ramsey filed a $750 million defamation lawsuit against CBS over the network's docuseries, The Case of JonBenet Ramsey. But it was two sides reached an amicable resolution of the differences, and the docuseries pushed the theory that Burke killed his younger sister. So the dad now, I believe, Jim, is living in Michigan.
Charlevoix, Michigan.
Charlevoix, Michigan. I want to say this because we always say it, and I do mean it. It is, my heart goes out to this little baby girl. Could we be wrong? Could I be wrong? And someone from outside do it? I could also tell you the moon's made of cheese and it's going to crash into the earth of the day, and you better go buy some Ritz crackers. It might happen, but the chance is very slim. But my heart goes out to this little baby girl. And you can't forget about the signs of sexual abuse.
Right.
I mean, it's a story. I actually get like weekly requests on it in 5 years. That's a long time. And I've always said I would cover it in some way, and I'm glad to get to cover you two gentlemen on Real Life, Real Crime Daily.
I wish the moon were made of cheese. That would be good.
I tell you that, boy, you better go buy you some crackers. We'll get on one of those.
I would totally eat the moon. Big fan of cheese.
Make your belly glow.
Mike, Woody, that was a pretty good episode. Any final thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I want to know why her stepbrother, John, supposedly devoted his life to finding justice for his little sister. So supposedly the stepbrother is full-time still investigating this case, trying to find, I don't know, is that like when OJ was going to find the real killer? I don't know. But Burke and his father have a good relationship and are together in Michigan. So there goes my
I want to say
Burke.
this real quick. There was a article by I guess nzherald.com, whatever. It says juror breaks secrecy laws to reveal what he knows who killed JonBenet Ramsey. A grand jury on the JonBenet Ramsey case has broken strict secrecy laws to say he knows who killed the 6-year-old beauty queen and reveal how he and fellow jurors were silenced. Risking prosecution, which could lead to imprisonment, the male juror has told U.S. TV show 2020 the shocking decision the grand jury came to almost 2 decades ago. The Colorado grand jury convened in 1999, less than 2 years after JonBenet Ramsey was murdered and her body found in the basement of her multimillionaire parents' home in Boulder, Colorado. Asked to deliberate on whether JonBenet's parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, should have been indicted over the murder, the juror tells the program the panel of 8 women and 4 men voted yes. They were told to indict only if they found probable cause. In other words, if they found it was more likely than not that the Ramseys killed their own daughter, 2020 Amy Robach says. Was there enough evidence to indict John and Patsy Ramsey for a crime? Robach asked the juror, who responds, based upon the evidence that was presented, I believe that was correct. But asked if the case had gone to trial, did he believe the Ramseys would be convicted? The juror answered no. Based on the evidence you presented, do you feel you know who killed JonBenet Ramsey? Robach asked. The juror responded, I highly suspect that I do. The revelation comes in a week in which the Colorado Bureau of Investigation announced it would be conducting sophisticated DNA testing on the underwear and long john. JonBenet's body was clothed in death. DNA analysis at the time exonerated the Ramsey family, but new evidence has come to light. And although the grand jury voted to indict JonBenet's parents 17 years ago, the Colorado prosecutor at the time disagreed and did not follow through with the jury's recommendations. And it goes on, whatever. So hopefully one day they'll close it.
You're indicted unanimously by a grand jury because the district attorney disagrees with 12 people.
They sent it to the grand jury.
That ought to be a law that grand jury indicts you, you're indicted.
They sent it to the secret grand jury. That, of course, like according to Coco's murder trial, the defense guy says you can indict a ham sandwich because in a grand jury, prosecution gets put on their side.
Defense doesn't,
et cetera. But that's the grand jury's only,
and that's a good.
The grand jury is only to establish the probable cause, even though they agreed that they had probable cause. The district attorney makes the decision not to prosecute because you know why? They love to say they got a 98.5% conviction rate. You know why that is? Because they plead out 98% of them.
Right.
You know, the 0.5% go to trial.
Don't get me started on the plea bargain.
And you don't want to take a loss, especially in the most high-profile case, and probably one of the most high-profile cases in the history of the United States, which follows into this segment, which of Real Life Real Crime Daily, which we're talking about crimes of the century.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, Mike?
Burke did it.
I'm looking at Mike, his head smoking. He's like, there's too many thoughts. Yeah.
We have no evidence of that, however.
Mike, can you say
no $750 million lawsuit here?
Say, this is America. I have no direct knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Mike Agavino, and this is America, and I have no direct knowledge. But
I believe in the pineapple theory. I'm sold on the pineapple.
That's love. I think it's a great episode.
All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please share this show with everybody you can think of on all your social media that you would think would get something out of this show, especially a true crime fan and a current true crime fan. We always love those. And until next time.
And y'all, thank you so much because you have been liking and sharing them, and leave us a review if you would. 3 days a week, Real Life Real Crime Daily. Our numbers are through the roof. We never had, at least I never thought we'd have so much success, and it's because you, the listeners. Thank you.
And my influence.
Indeed.
A week from listening to this episode, you will get another episode of the Crimes of the Century, and that episode, we absolutely, positively promise you, we know who the killer is.
Yes.
Hey.
So we're solving one.
Maybe I'll go on the defense on that one.
All right. Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agavino.
For Real Life, Real Crime Daily, we come at you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Peace.